Today is the day Keith and Sandra were finally going to get married. After 5 long years of their relationship, ups and downs, good times and bad times, sometimes sitting together to share the same cup of cocoa, and sometimes even wanting to rip each other's hair out, the two were just about sure they wanted things to be just the same till the very end. Keith and Sandra were madly in love with each other. They had always stood by each other no matter what, and most of all, they trusted each other. Keith was an English professor at the BII University, and Sandra worked as a supervisor at the BII Corporation. The two had saved up a good sum of money with which they would host their own wedding. Keith invited his closest family, friends, and colleagues, and so did Sandra. They booked the venue at a beautiful garden-side ballroom, had the place decorated beautifully. It was an occasion they would never forget. However, as Sandra and Keith stood there at the altar, looking into each other's eyes in love and affection, promising to be there for each other to the very end, out of the blue, the ballroom doors burst open. A young woman stormed down the aisle, staring at Keith furiously. "How can you be so low? After all we had, you're marrying someone else?" she said, looking at Keith. "Who do you think you are, barging in here and creating a scene? Who allowed her in?" "No, Keith, you won't be able to avoid me anymore. You will give me answers today." Everyone on the benches started whispering and murmuring. Sandra had no clue what was going on. "Keith, who is she?" "He didn't tell you all these days. How could you expect he would tell you the truth now? The man you're marrying is nothing but a liar, a cheater." "Hold it. First, don't speak to my fiancé like that." "Keith, what is she talking about?" "I have all the right to interrupt this wedding. This isn't a wedding. It's a dirty game your so-called fiancé is playing. You need to get out of here, Tiffany, because you're not going to like it when security drags you out." "Sandra, can we step out for a moment?" "Of course, threaten me to cover up our secrets. But guess what, Keith? You won't be able to hide our relationship anymore. It's too late for that." What was happening? Sandra suddenly felt anxious. This was her big day. Everything was planned out perfectly. But what secrets? What relationship? Why was Keith so nervous? And who was this girl? She was probably 20 years younger than them. Sandra was highly critical of her, but seeing the tears drop down her cheeks as she looked at Keith, she knew something definitely wasn't right. Sandra held her wedding gown and walked down from the altar. "Sandra, where are you going? This is our wedding. Are you going to let some stranger ruin this?" "You know very well we were everything but strangers." "Sandra, let's call the security." "No, Keith. Maybe there's something you should explain to me first." Sandra ushered the young woman aside. "How about we talk outside? Come with me." Keith's girlfriend might have been trying to stay calm and composed, trusting her partner over her, but even through it all, Tiffany could see the doubt in her eyes. The wedding was postponed while the three walked out to the garden behind the ballroom. "All right, now calm down and tell me what happened." "Sandra, don't listen to her. Let me explain." "Keith, let her speak." "Sandra, are you buying into her drama? She's a nobody. Listen to me." Tiffany burst out crying. He might not want to admit it, but there's no way he can deny what we had. She held her stomach. I'm pregnant with his child." It was about 2 years ago when Keith first met Tiffany. She was a new student of his. Keith had overlooked her as just another one of those freshmen. It wasn't until she actually failed the first semester that they got to know each other better. Tiffany came in requesting Professor Keith to pass her even if it were with the minimum passing grade. "Is this some sort of joke? I can't pass you after you certainly and horribly failed." "But Professor, there must be something I can do, an extra credit assignment, something." "Tiffany, this isn't high school, this is college. If you fail, you suffer the consequences. It's your time and money gone to waste. I hope you remember that the next time you have to pay for all of this." "Please, Professor, I have to work 2 jobs for this. It gets difficult at times, if you just allow me to retake the exam." Professor Keith felt bad for Tiffany as she went on and on about her circumstance. She was all alone, trying to make it on her own. So he decided to offer her a few private lessons and allow her to retake the exam. However, over those hours the two spent together after classes, things slowly went from studying to just passing time with each other. "You know, Professor, you're quite an entertaining person. I can listen to you go on, so how about we put all these papers away and you go on with your lecture?" "Good one, but the pampering is not going to work. You're only passing the class if you pass the exam." "Well, you didn't have to give me a 0. To be honest, I didn't want to give you a 0, but that was the lowest mark I could give you." "Excuse me for not understanding the concept. I haven't been studying this for 100 years like you." "Hey, I'm not that old." "Yeah, you actually look quite young for your age. I'm impressed. Let's take a selfie. We look good together." They began talking about other things, joking and laughing, until one day Tiffany got a little late and requested Professor Keith to drop her home. "Why don't you come in? It's a chilly day. We can have a cup of hot coffee together." "I don't know. Please, Professor, I know what you're worried about, but it's not like we're at the university. You can relax." Professor Keith and Tiffany began meeting outside, going out on dates and spending good time together. Keith felt a little guilty at first. He was cheating on his girlfriend Sandra, the woman he loved, the woman he planned to marry. But there was something about Tiffany that made him happy. He couldn't stay away from her. She was fun-loving and cheerful, and with her, Keith felt like he could relax, let loose for once, and not be this upright, disciplined, robotic professor all the time. His relationship with Tiffany progressed, though they kept it a secret due to her being his student. However, when Tiffany started to butt into his personal life, he started to fear that he would not just get caught cheating, but it would ruin his reputation and he could possibly lose his job. People would look down on him. So he decided it was time to stop meeting Tiffany. Tiffany couldn't bear the separation. She called him, but he wouldn't pick up. She waited for him outside his classes, but he just avoided the confrontation. How could he just say it's over? It was during this time that she found out that she was pregnant. That's when she knew she had to confront him. He couldn't leave her on her own like this. She found out he used another number and called him using a private number. He wouldn't reject this call. But when Tiffany heard a woman's voice on the line, she was devastated. She tried to give him the benefit of doubt, but she soon found out she was speaking to his girlfriend. And what was heartbreaking was that Keith was getting married to her sooner than Tiffany had ever expected. But Tiffany couldn't let that be. She wanted answers. When Sandra listened to the whole story, she was shook. She had been with Keith for so long. Were all these years of loving each other, standing by each other, false? It couldn't be. She loved Keith, and when she looked into Keith's eyes, she could see the love he had for her as well. What he did wasn't right. But everyone deserved another chance as long as they owned up to what they did. "Keith, I trusted you. I always supported you. You didn't have to go behind my back. You could have told me. We could have sorted the matter out before everything went out of hand. It's too late now. How can you trust them?" "I'm sorry, Sandra. Believe me when I say this. She means nothing to me. It was a one-time thing. I don't love her. I love you." "Don't lie to her. Didn't you tell me that?" "Keith, don't say that. You expect me to believe it was a fluke, a one-time thing? She's pregnant." "I don't know how it happened. But Tiffany, what you and I had wasn't real, and it's been long over. Why are you taking this so far?" "I'm taking this far? Keith, I don't give a hoot about our relationship anymore. But what are you going to do about this child? You did this to me. Admit it or not, this is your child, and the least you will do is provide child support." "Sandra, we need to speak in private." "Keith, you had enough time to tell me in private, but you didn't. You hid this from me." Sandra, these past 5 years were the best in my entire life, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. That's why you felt the need to cheat on me. Keith, instead of trying to cover up, it's time you deal with it. She's carrying your child, for goodness sake. I'm not taking no for an answer, Keith. You have to take responsibility for what you did to me. Whatever we had was consensual. Don't point your finger at me like that. No, Keith, you took this too far. How will we make this work out? Sandra said, holding her face. Maybe you two can co-parent. The 3 of us can figure something out. Things never work out like that. How much money does he make? He's going to pay child support to me? He's going to pay for his own place? This is impossible. How we make it work is none of your business. When it's time, you'll get your money. Just leave us alone. It doesn't suit you to speak about your own child like that. It's your responsibility. Don't worry. Keith will provide for the child. And what if you have a child with him? He'll never be able to afford it. And on top of that, partiality is bound to come into the picture. It's going to be a horrible mess. Sandra, listen to me. It's not going to be that difficult. We'll manage. I don't know, Keith. You ruined everything. Sandra walked out of the garden as Keith followed after her. Sandra, wait. Listen to me. Keith, just leave me alone. I need some time to think. Sandra went out and sat alone in the garden. She couldn't help the tears now drop from her eyes. Keith sat down beside her. Sandra, I'm sorry. I know I should have told you before, but we can sort everything out. After a moment of silence, Sandra finally spoke out. Keith, I wanted to be with you. I loved you, but she's right. This is the matter of another life. I don't want to ruin a family you can have. Besides, I've become the third wheel in this. Perhaps it's better if we stop things right here. The wedding was cancelled, and not just Keith and Sandra, but everyone returned home with a heavy heart. Keith didn't know what he was going to do. Tiffany had been calling him and messaging him continuously, but he was too enraged to even see her face right now. He spoke to Sandra again. The two had a mature talk, but it was of no use, and Keith came to realize it was never going to be the same with Sandra again. It was his fault. Over the week, Keith took the time to think things through. He started to fear if he didn't confront Tiffany sooner than later, she would cause a scene at his workplace like he did at his wedding. It was time Keith set things straight. So the next morning, Keith called Tiffany over to the apartment. What do you plan to do with this child? What do you mean, what do I plan to do? I'm going to have the child. Look, Tiffany, I've given the matter thought, and I wanted to ask you to move in with me. What? You want me to move in with you? Here. Look, it's our child, it's a life. It didn't choose to be born, it's us that brought us here. So it only suits us to care for him or her. And what about us? I don't know if we'll ever be like before, but right now, I'd like to prioritize our child first. Tiffany eventually moved into Keith's apartment. Though their relationship was strained, and they rarely even spoke to each other like before. As the days went by, the two started to become close again. They bonded over how they would handle the pregnancy and how they would take care of the child when it came. Keith tried to be a good partner and possibly a good father. He took Tiffany to her prenatal appointments and redecorated the apartment, now including a nursery for the unborn child. And it was sooner than later that the time came. When Tiffany saw Keith pick up their baby in his arms, celebrating the joyous moment, she breathed out in relief. She had never expected all of this to happen, but sometimes life took the most unexpected turns. She had taken a lot of wrong steps herself on the way here, but in the end, at least she made one good decision that made everything work out. Sandra was a loser for letting Keith out of her hands. Keith may have cheated, but out of all the guys that Tiffany had been with in her freshman year, he was the one that would be the most trustworthy and capable to actually own up to his mistakes and find a solution for them. He might have been a fool, but he was the right guy to father her child, even if he really wasn't the father of her child at all. My sweet little bundle of joy, He's adorable. He looks just like you. Not. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.